Let's move on here because we have another question that is going to kind of take us into our next segment here, which is, what do the Dolphins do at 3? The Dolphins are, we talk about the Jets being an interesting position. Look, the Jets were 0-10 or 0-11, 0-12, 13, whatever they were. And we're like, okay, they're in the perfect position. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence. Don't screw it up. They screwed it up. They're in a good position now with that number 2 pick and some assets. Don't screw it up. Let's see what they do. But right after them is division rival Miami Dolphins, number 3. I should add the 10-5, potentially on the verge of the playoffs, Miami Dolphins, picking at number 3. Earlier this year, on this show, Ben, you broke the news that hold on. Before we go to this, Trey Wingo is popping in here saying, do not dump Darnold. And it looks like, Ben, that's kind of what you were saying, is right now, if they feel like they like Darnold, they're going to hang on to him. So we'll see how that works out. But like I said, moving on to the Dolphins here, they got the number 3 pick. They're 10-5 on the verge of the playoffs. Ben, on this show, you broke the news that, and then a couple of weeks later, Adam Schefter confirmed that one of the reasons that they were going to Tua in Miami was because they had that high draft pick from Houston. They felt it was going to be a top 10 pick. I don't know if they knew it was going to be a top 3 pick, and they needed to know what they had in Tua. Okay. Tua has had I would say, a pretty average rookie season for a rookie quarterback. He hasn't been Justin Herbert. He hasn't been Joe Burrow, but he's been a rookie quarterback. He's looked like a rookie. They pulled him at the end of the Denver game. Fitzpatrick, came within an elite Justin Simmons play of leading that comeback. They pulled him at the end of last week, and he did complete the comeback. Ryan Fitzpatrick, that is. It's a unique quarterback situation. The first question I'm going to ask is, do the Dolphins go quarterback with this number 3 pick, assuming there's a good one like a Justin Fields, like a Zach Wilson sitting there for them at number 3?
No, they're not going quarterback. I've seen. So I thought that stuff was a joke on Twitter. I guess I was wrong.
No, not.
Okay, let me stop you right there. The Dolphins are not going quarterback. This is like the time when everybody in Broncos was trying to trade Von Miller when he had a $40 million dead cap. The Broncos are not trading Von Miller. The Dolphins are not drafting a quarterback at number 3 overall. In fact, they're not taking a first-round quarterback whatsoever. They may take a project guy later. They're not drafting a quarterback in the first, and probably the first 3 rounds. Okay, let me just. And if I'm wrong, on that, if that somehow happens, you come find me. You watching right now. You come find me, and I'll give you $1,000 cash. All right.
He's good for it, folks. By the way,
you're not going to get a better guarantee than that. Okay. Let me say this: the Dolphins are probably going to draft a receiver there at 3, most likely. Tua has not been great as a rookie, but he has shown enough promise that you want to continue to invest in him. He's been a little bit hyper conservative with the passing. He's been reticent to throw the deep ball, and that's sort of been a problem. But they've been without some weapons here or there. The receiving core has been hurt at times. The offensive line is still growing. It's still a work in progress. I think they're probably going to make investments in the offense, specifically at running back, offensive line, tight end, and wide receiver. And so I think that's the direction that they're going to go. Tua hasn't been bad. He's not been good. He's not been great, but he's not been bad. He's been a rookie, and that's the thing. Like I'm dealing with the fan base in Denver right now that I'm trying to get them to understand that Drew Lock hasn't been as terrible as they think he has, and he's been significantly worse than Tua. So the idea that they're going to draft a quarterback at 3. I don't know who started that, but let me meet me over here at camera 2. I don't know where you got that idea, but it ain't happening.
First of all, Ben, when you look directly into the camera like that, your eyes are just, they're heavenly, man. So I got to butter you up a little bit, but yeah, look,
take me out to dinner first. God.
Hey man, I'm good for that. So look, I think the situation, and Cody, I'm going to throw this to you, is, they're not going quarterback. I agree. Cody, you and I, Ben, I forget why, but Cody and I were doing the show, and you remember I got crucified by what I have discovered is a largely toxic fan base of the Miami Dolphins. I've seen, by the way, I did see Jerry Judy's Instagram comments, and I'm shocked by that Denver fan base. But I have stopped live tweeting Dolphins games. I've stopped, largely talking Dolphins on Twitter because of the vitriol that was sent my way. It's very unfortunate that social media has become that place. But for suggesting that Ryan Fitzpatrick is the best quarterback on the roster, We talked about this, Cody, when they first inserted him as the starter. He was coming off of that game against the Rams, and we said, look, he's a rookie, and this is not about the playoffs. This is about developing Tua. What we've seen Brian Flores do is when Tua looks like he doesn't have it, he's not reading the field correctly, which was the case this past week. They're just going to go to Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's unique. It's different than what other teams have done, but it's working because this team is on the verge of the playoffs. But you're not getting a quarterback. You're sticking with Tua because Ben is right. He's done some great things. He's shown he's got some elite traits. He's got some things that you can build around. My question to you, Cody, is it receiver? Is it a Devontae Smith there? Is it, Tua's former teammate there at Alabama? Do you pass up on a Sewell? A lot of Dolphins fans think that the offensive line has been one of Tua's biggest, one of the biggest impediments to Tua being successful, even though Fitzpatrick plays behind the same offensive line. Is Sewell the pick there at 3 if the Jets don't take him? What are your thoughts on that, Cody?
I don't know if Sewell's going to be the pick there for Miami. I think what makes sense based on watching the film on Miami, one of the things that stands out to me is that they just don't have any of those receivers that create that separation necessary, right? Devontae Parker's a great receiver. Don't get me wrong. Jakeem Grant's a speedy guy, but these are guys that Tua has to get in line with, and they're not quite there yet. I think a guy like Devontae Smith, that familiarity that Tua has with him back at Alabama, I think that's necessary. And we've seen the numbers he's been putting up this year at Alabama. He's a legitimate Heisman candidate right now. So I think that wide
receiver for the Heisman, I think.
I think he's on the trajectory of doing that. I know it's primarily a quarterback, specific award that we see year in and year out. We had this conversation about the NFL MVP award, but I do think that Tua does need some weapons to be able to get the ball to, right? A guy that you trust, and who has more trust with Devontae Smith than Tua, right? So I think that obviously makes sense from a tie-in. That's the most, I'd say easy path right here for the Dolphins if you want to improve the offense in a sense. I think the offensive line that they have is young. They have a couple guys moving in and out, but they invested on some offensive line picks in last year's draft. You can find some great developmental guys in round 2 and round 3 that you can plug in the O-line. You need to have the best player available for a position that you need, and I think wide receiver is that position for them.
So I mean, a lot of people are, a lot of fans, I think, balk at the idea of taking a wide receiver at number 3. But I think with Devontae Smith, you talked about, he's going to be the first, the last receiver I can remember, and I may be missing a few, so forgive me for that. But the last receiver I can remember who was up for Heisman candidacy and seriously considered was Larry Fitzgerald when he was back at Pittsburgh. And Devontae Smith is not Larry Fitzgerald. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is the kid is very good. Is he worthy of a number 3 pick? Chris Smith, our host of Moneyline and Wine, our Friday night show, which is actually going to be airing tomorrow at 8:15 because we won't be on New Year's Day. But Chris asks, do you think they could wait till later in the first round to get that pick? I guess proposing a trade down.
Well, they have 2 picks in the first round. Miami has their own pick and Houston's pick, right?
That's right.
So they could absolutely wait till later to get a wide receiver. But if you have your guy and you've got the 3rd overall pick, if you believe in a guy right there, you take him. I always hated, there's a concept people talk about, and yes, D.D. Westbrook was a finals.
Yes, thank you, Tristan Beckman, for that.
You are correct. Let me go back. The wide receiver position. If you believe a guy is your guy, go get him. Don't let him get away from you. And if you believe Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith or whomever, if you believe he's your guy, number 3 is not too early to take him. I always hated the concept of reaches because there's no such thing as a reach. You either believe a guy is your guy and you'll do what it takes to get him. Now, you might not get max value out of that, meaning you could have gotten him later. But if he's your guy, go get your guy. Don't risk him getting away from you. So
I remember that conversation when the Giants took Daniel Jones. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, you could take him. You could have gotten him later on in the draft,"
and they couldn't.
They believed that was his guy.
And they also couldn't have, by the way. There were several teams, Miami included, since we're talking about the Dolphins, that were interested in Daniel Jones as far as that goes. So, or Saquon Barkley, at number 2. Yeah, that was one of the things. I hate taking a running back in the top 10. It's against my philosophy personally. But if that's your guy, it's not a reach. It's your guy. Go get him. So I think that's the biggest disconnect between fans and media and NFL teams and that kind of stuff. I would not be surprised for them to take a receiver at that point. I would also not be surprised if they see a corner that they want there to bring up in the pipeline behind Jones and Xavier Howard and make one of the top trios of corners in the NFL because nickel is base now. So there are a lot of things that they could do there, but I suspect they're going to put a lot of draft capital in the offensive side of the ball.
Very fascinating. Look, like we said, the Dolphins are such an interesting team because they win this Sunday against the Bills. They're in the playoffs. and they're going to be having 2 first-round picks, one of them potentially a top 3 pick. That pick, by the way, may not end up at number 3. It could be number 5, could be 4. A lot depends on what Houston does against the Titans in this week. But look, they're guaranteed a top 10 pick. They win this Sunday, they're in the playoffs. And has there been a better executive in the league over the last 2 years than Chris Grier? I'm not saying there hasn't been, but I mean, Chris Grier is up there.
He's up there. Ballard certainly has to be up there. He's got to be up there. There's been some great, specifically with the draft. But Miami had all that capital, and they managed to bring, the free agents in and the draft picks together. I think he's done a great job.